welcome to Scorched Earth and a general reading for the sign of Libra, Sun, Moon or Ascendant for the month of April 2024. I hope you are well. I'm using the Llewellyn Tarot for you today. It's been a while since this has had an outing. I was quite surprised that it wanted to come out. Anyway, before we begin, if the reading resonates with you and you'd like to go a little bit deeper, there will be an extended that you can access at the end. That is link number 1 in the description box. Link number 2 is to my private community, which is the Order of the Phoenix, over on the Circle platform. You can get access to all of the extended content for no extra cost beyond the subscription fee. Hang out with some truly extraordinary people, and they are, and take part in some of the classes and whatnot that we've got running over there. So if that's something that sounds like it will be of interest to you, that's the second link. The third is to 3-month overviews that I've done for each of the signs. They run, obviously, April to June 2024. We are moving into turbulent times, and if you are interested in finding out how that's going to affect your sign specifically, get some idea about how to navigate through all of that, you know what to do with that. So let's get some cards on the table and see what's going on with you. Could I have 3 cards, please, for Libra? There's the first one. We have the Magician. Current energy for Libra, please. Oh, goodness. We have the 5 of Cups and the Empress, which is a card of Taurus or Libra because it's actually ruled by Venus, and you know that's your ruling planet. So okay, and what's coming towards Libra, please, for April? We've got 3 of Cups in reverse. Right, okay, we've got the Death card at the bottom of the deck. Now, I'm not really surprised about this, Libra. I mean, not only have we just had lunar eclipse in your sign that was conjunct the South Node. Was it? Yes. Let's just move these where you can actually see them. It's going to bring about completions, right? Lunar eclipses, that's what they do. They bring around completions, and the South Node is that which requires balancing. By definition, things are getting left behind. Now, the Death card there can speak to endings, but it also very much can speak to transformation. And I think there's a path here that's opening up for you in April, and likely it's not going to be terribly comfortable. Now, I can't speak, you know, specifically of the astrology as to how this will affect you personally, because, you know, if you have your sun in the ascendant, then, you know, that's going to be first house stuff for you. But if you're, what would you be? Ooh. Testing my brain now, trying to visualize the circle of the zodiac. If your sun is in the 12th house, so you're actually a Scorpio sun, Scorpio ascendant. There we go. That's the one. So it's going to hit very differently, you know. So we're not going to loiter on that too much. I'd rather look to the collective energies for Libra. So let's get some clarifiers on the table. Tell me about this Magician. Right, we've got the King of Pentacles showing up in reverse. Oof. And we've got the Ace of Pentacles in reverse. Tell me about the 5 of Cups and the Empress. We've got a World showing up sideways, and we've got the 6 of Cups showing up sideways too. Interesting. Show me about the, tell me about the 3 of Cups in reverse, please. We have 4 of Wands and the Magician again. Well, and the 3 of Wands at the bottom of the deck. I mean, it's quite clear to me that, you know, what we don't have on the table is a tower. No, we're not expecting some sort of tower. It feels more like a slow dawning realization that there's a path here that you need to take that is palpably different to the one that you thought you were taking. Let me just straighten these up, because that's going to trigger the shit out of me otherwise. Just so that we can see what's going on, because it's quite busy on the table for some reason. Don't know why it feels so busy as it is. And so the completions and the conclusions, if you will, of what you're going through at the moment, they're turning your life around into a different. They're putting you on a different path. That's the way that I want to talk about this. But a different path is happening. It's not that what's going on for you is some sort of punishment, because we do see the Three of Wands here and we do see the Four of Wands, and I'm going to speak to those specifically as we get through the reading. But there's a direction of travel, there are things happening, but there are certainly things closing out that you did not expect. I think that's probably the best way to put it, and we'll get into that in a second. So we start off with the Magician over here in your recent past. Now, that, generally speaking, is quite a good card. It speaks of manifestation, it speaks of actually control and willpower and the ability to be relatively limitless and whatnot. But every card in the tarot has an upside and a downside, and I'm afraid we're looking at the flip for this Magician, because in the more pejorative sense, what the Magician does is manipulate, right? And when we're looking at this from a positive perspective, he is manipulating reality to bring about a particular result, right? And we generally interpret that in a positive light, but sometimes he turns up in a less than positive light. And so when the Magician shows up, and particularly when he's showing up with a king, which is the active expression of something, what we've got is somebody who is manipulating for their own ends. The king's showing up in the reverse is never a good thing, because what we've got there is somebody who's working very much to their own agenda, and they're not taking on the kingly kind of responsibility that we would associate with them when they were in their upright. And the King of Pentacles for me is particularly a card that is talking about the active expression of taking accountability and responsibility for those around him. I mean, ultimately, the King of Pentacles is a provider. That's the point of him, right? And he takes a lot of joy in doing so. But what happens here with a King in reverse, with the Magician, is we've got an amplification of a more self-interested energy that has been manipulating you for their own ends. Now, that Pentacle in reverse, the Ace of Pentacles in reverse, really does feel like there's a few different ways that you can go off with this, Libra, right? So the Ace of Pentacles is the potential for some sort of new start, right? It's usually quite a solid new start because it is represented by the Suit of Pentacles. But it can also be seeing the value in something. Now, that's where it all starts to get a little bit more vague. And actually, I might pull out another deck to speak to that specifically. Because what we could be talking about is you being around somebody who does not see the value of accountability, does not see the value of responsibility, and is in some way trying to shirk that, trying to pull the wool over your eyes, has been trying to pull the wool over your eyes in that respect. But it could be somebody who doesn't really see the value of themselves. There's actually something quite sad about those cards as I'm looking at them there. Because it feels like it's somebody who has so much potential and yet ducks and dives the work. Let's put it that way, right? The work. To the extent that they're willing to manipulate you to further that particular agenda, right? It becomes extremely self-interested. And that's quite a difficult thing to swallow, Libra. How about this Ace of Pentacles and King of Pentacles in reverse, please? 10 of Wands, well, there it is. I mean, both too much work for them, but also something that is causing burden for you. And there's such a sense of disappointment around those energies there. Like I said, what we don't have here is a tower. we don't have something that's broadsiding you from God knows where, and pulling the rug out from underneath you. It's that slow dawning realization that in some way, in some aspect of a shared existence that you have with someone else, they simply couldn't stand up to the... what's the phrase that I was looking for there? Step up to the plate. There we go. I was going to say stand up to the plate. That didn't make any sense at all. Right? Considering it to be too burdensome for them to do, but also then creating within you a kind of psychological and emotional burden of recognizing, realizing that this is the case. And the sadness that I feel is I feel like this is how it's hitting you. It's not anger. It's not jumping up and down and flipping tables and flipping your biscuits and all that kind of thing. It just is a sadness. Let's get one more card for that, please. Wheel of Fortune. And that's very interesting because we have double tens there. And so, the implication being that this recognition, this awareness that is coming along slowly is something that was supposed to happen, right? Something that was designed to open your eyes. And it would be nice if we could say that it does the same for the other party, but I really don't think that it does. Now, at this point, there's not really any indication as to who this person might be in your environment. And it is a collective reading, so likely it will be different for everyone. And, the scale of the deception will be different for everyone. But what really brings it together for everyone is a sense of disappointment in this. And the feeling that something is being set in motion by this discovery that is changing the course of your life, Libra. I don't know if it particularly changes the course of theirs. They seem to be very set on a path of responsibility shirking. But it certainly seems to be having an effect on you. And when we come into your current energy, we've got the Five of Cups and we've got the Empress. Now, the Empress is interesting because she has a kind of... she has a dual meaning straight from the off for you. Again, like I said, she's ruled by Venus, so it does literally represent Libra. But the Empress is also the archetypal mother, and so for some of you, this might be an issue with your mother or with one of your children. Which is to say, like your position as a mother. But we have the Five of Cups. We've got a sense of grief and loss, something that has been lost, to really kind of drum home the message that this could well be something to do with children. And if it is to do with children, I would say adult children, because it's on its side there. Or, you as an adult child of a parent that you are experiencing some amount of disappointment and sadness, with regard to their behaviour on. But the Five of Cups is an energy of loss, like I said. And it doesn't mean that, we're not talking about a specific loss here. Although for a very small number of you, it is possible that that experience might have something to do with it. I just don't feel like it really fits with the rest of the reading. That would be a whole thing on its own. This loss feels more like the loss of an innocence around the behavior of somebody in your environment, right? Whether it's a partner, like I said, child, parent, even friend. It could be a work colleague, it could be your boss, magician, King of Pentacles in reverse. And the loss, I think, is less to do with an actual loss and more to do with, as I said, that realization. It's a loss of your innocence. It's a loss of, where somebody's left a gap and you've inputted it with lots of really positive Libran stuff, probably very Venusian stuff too. Realizing that never came from the other person. That was in fact what you had put in there, the way that you had filled in the gaps. Because this Five of Cups is very much yours. The loss is very much yours. The loss of innocence is very much yours. And it just seems to be pervaded by such a sense of sadness. We've got the World card here. You know, when it's in its upright, it's the end of a cycle, and generally it's a card that indicates a joyful end of a cycle, because from here we go to the Fool, right? There's been a completion, there's been some sort of ending, and now we can progress to the next level. When it shows up in the reverse, for whatever reason, that is delayed or held back in some sort of way, but it's here. And I think there's a question of the amount of time that it's going to take you to accept the status quo with regard to this person and this situation before you release it, if indeed you are able to do so. Because I do feel like there's the possibility of you kind of hanging there just for a little while, Libra, which makes me feel like it's close. It doesn't feel like it's, you know, a friend of a friend of a friend, or Bob from down the road that, you know, you've known for a couple of years or whatever. Like, this feels like it's emotionally significant to you. Tell me about these two sideways cards here, please. Oof. So we've got the Knight of Swords in reverse, and we've got the Seven of Cups in the upright. And I think that this is the issue, really. I mean, we've got the Queen of Pentacles at the bottom of the deck. So we've got you or Taurus energy. We have the four fixed signs here, so Leo, Aquarius, Scorpio, and Taurus. We've got Gemini here with the Knight of Swords. We've got Capricorn down here. I could involve one of these signs, but I feel like from an energetic perspective, it's really kind of drumming it home that it's you that it's affecting here. And in a Venusian way, rather than the attribution of, you know, that kind of sharper, more sword-heavy version of Libra that we see in the Justice card. The Knight of Swords in reverse is simply a cutting off of communication. And we have the Seven of Cups, which is about emotional confusion. I mean, sometimes it's difficult to know what is the right cup to pick, right? It's difficult to know how to feel about a situation. And we've got the 5 and the 6 and the 7 here. So there is a process. It's not like you're absolutely stuck here. Because I think there's some aspect of this that is confirming something that you kind of already knew, but you hadn't really put everything together. And I think we've been getting shades of this kind of energy in and out since April. I don't know if it was April. It was certainly August, which was the word that I was going for. August last year. I refer you back to the Shadow and the Revelation video. If you have not seen that, I'll actually link it at the end so you can watch it, because I think it's really important. I think the confusion is that whoever this person is, there's no sense that they want to enter into dialogue with you to come to some sort of solution to this issue, you know, to take responsibility, to take accountability. I just don't think it's there. And that feels to me to be as confusing to you as the situation coming up in the first place. But because there's something here that is relatively familiar, in so much as a deep dark part of you kind of suspected that this was the case anyway. The Queen of Pentacles is sort of asking you to take up the mantle of what you need, of self-care. You know, it's the passive expression of the suit of Pentacles, where the King of Pentacles is the active expression. And we've got somebody who is very much in their own energy, in a very self-interested kind of frame of mind. And frankly, you know, manipulating you to try and get what they want out of a situation. where you are at the moment is very much about, where does my self-care fit into this, and how can I process what's gone on here? Because I do feel like Libra is very fucking tired. That's been something actually that's been going on for a very long time. That's 6 months easy that you've been very, very tired. But I don't think there's been much let up in 2024 for Libras either. And I do think that it's the need to create space around yourself that's really coming up here, to give yourself the space to process what has occurred. Because there's something about this situation that is changing you. And I don't know if it's because of the trust that has in some way been betrayed, the way that you've been let down, you know, a certain expectation of behavior that just simply has not been met. But like I said, there seems to be a karmic shift that's taking you down an entirely different road that may well not have happened unless this had been experienced. And I think that that's important because, well, everybody's getting a shaking up in some way or another, right? And the South Node going through one sign is pretty brutal. And you've still got another, where are we at? April. You know, you've still got another 8 months or so of it going through your sign. But I think we're maybe exactly halfway through. Would that be right? Yeah, more or less halfway through the nodal transit. So I think it's December where the nodes shift into Pisces and Virgo, and that will take some of the tension away for sure. Because I think for the rest of this year is going to be very much about processing, balancing, you know, your Libra, right? So you were wanting to try and balance something here anyway, but then the South Node is asking you to balance the spiritual lessons that come from the experiences that you've had. When we move into April proper, we have the Three of Cups in reverse, and that I think is really quite difficult, because that sociable side for which you are famed, right? The Venusian side of you that wants everybody to be happy, wants everyone to feel harmonious and come together and just simply enjoy each other's company, right? And the extent to which you have done everything that you possibly could to facilitate groups of people having that sort of situation going on, I feel like you're having to withdraw in some sort of way from this, or you're finding people withdrawing from you. I actually think it's the former more than the latter. I'm almost certain about that. Because that, again, that sense of kind of retreating so as to create space around yourself so that you can process your next steps. Because this is the thing, I don't think that this is holding you down in one place for too long. There's too many energies of you going off in a different direction. We've got the Death card here, which actually is exceedingly positive in terms of personal transformation. And that is what the Death card represents, after all, right? It's a transition from one state into another. But we have the Three of Wands at the bottom of this deck here, and we also have the Four of Wands here, this time with, again, with a Magician. But the Magician feels like this one is speaking much more to your energy than that one was over there. There's the creation of a new foundation that we get from the Four of Wands, right? And the actions that you take to start bringing this into reality. But the Four of Wands is also about the home. It's also about celebration and where we feel nourished and nurtured. The way that I describe the Four of Wands quite often is it's not about your four walls and your, the roof on your house. It's not about the land that you own or anything like that. It's not about the place that you physically call home. It's who you would call if you had some really, really good news and you wanted to share it with them, right? Because you know that these people would celebrate with you and there would be that joy in the moment. But it's also the people that you would call if something fucking awful happened and you needed comfort and reassurance. You needed someone to be with you, right? Those would be the people that you call. That's home right there. And I feel like your sense of home is getting a restructuring. And it's the people that have been home. that are getting either kind of moved out of the way in favor of new people, or just, you know, simply just this kind of separation going on. Now, if it is that the person concerned over here is simply not talking to you, then it could be that they're kind of pulling themselves out of your space because there's no point in being there, because they're not going to talk to you about this thing. They're not going to give you the answers that you want. And there's something very challenging about that, something, you know, in and of itself. But you seem to be in a fairly resourceful frame of mind, because the Magician says, how can I create for myself what I will to be the case? How can I manifest something that is much more solid than what I had before? Tell me about these two cards down here, please. So we have the King of Cups. I'm going to put them that way. Oof. We have the Devil. So we've got Scorpio and we've got Capricorn energy on the table here. But I mean, the King of Cups felt to me very much like an emotional maturation that was happening to you, through you. I mean, it's Scorpio. We've got double Scorpio on the table, right? The transformation of your emotional state. I mean, to some degree, I do think that there's going to be a reassessment of not just the people that formulate your home and whatnot, but something a little bit longer term than that, that could see decisions made about where it is that you actually live, right? 3 of Wands can be travel, 4 of Wands, as I said, home. And if that is the case, it's because the things that kept you where you were no longer have the value that they did before, right? We've got a reassessment of relative values and whatnot. But I don't feel like you've got it in you to fight in the same way that you would do before, which is to say fight for the relationship, interestingly. Fight to keep the relationship around you. I think the realization of manipulation is just a little bit too uncomfortable for you to want to keep it as part of your experience moving forwards. And so with this emotional maturation, now you have all of the information, or certainly more information than you had before. It doesn't feel like you want to fight for this. Like the disappointment is palpable. But it's karmic. It is destined. And it's taking your life in a different direction, which is very interesting indeed, right? Libra, I'm going to leave it here and go over to the extended, because I want to explore this specifically. We're going to see, you know, what it is that you need to know about the month of April, and we'll look to find a way to help you navigate through this energy, because it feels kind of gross. I'll be honest, Libra, it feels kind of gross, and my heart goes out to you because it's not a comfortable situation at all. But it is one that I think long term is going to strengthen and empower you to live the kind of life that you haven't had an opportunity to live in quite a while, which can only be a good thing. But, well, I'm not even sure it's a but situation, and there's a cost. But I think at this point it's a cost now that you're willing to pay where perhaps you weren't willing to pay it before. So yes, over to the extended. You can join me on Vimeo, or you can join me on Circle. I'd be delighted to see you in either place. Links are in the description box. But if this is where we part ways, and that's not a problem at all. I mean, the energy of the eclipse, the lunar eclipse that's just happened in your sign, will actually rattle along, I think, for 13 I'm sure I heard it was 13 months. So please don't expect everything to be just sort of done and dusted in one day or overnight, or this just be a kind of, you know, a weekend problem. There are consequences here that will see a year to play out. But I do think that these cards here are representing a new direction of travel. Wheel of Fortune as well, and the Death card. They're representing a new direction of travel that you would not have considered otherwise. So long term good, short term pretty uncomfortable. And you've just got to keep breathing through it and trust that, you know, whatever is being possibly eclipsed out, what is being revealed to you at this point is for your highest good, you know. So I'm going to leave it there. Like I said, know that I love you all very, very much, and I'll see you soon.